The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Gray from Graylink, and we welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. If this is the first time you are attending a webinar, welcome to the revolution. This is the way that global businesses are communicating, and we're encouraging more interaction via webinar in South Africa, especially in the recruiting industry. So welcome today. On behalf of Graylink, we would like to welcome Ziv Elivraz from Zao.com, a new partner of Graylink's that we believe will be driving exceptional value when it comes to tapping into employees and your employee networks using the rise of obviously social medias and various other forms of media out there. So Ziv is going to be driving today's session and taking us through the different aspects of launching and maintaining your employee referral program. And following this, if you'd like more information or one-on-one demonstration, we can most certainly do that at your offices. But I'm going to hand over to Ziv, who will be driving the session, and I'm sure you will get lots of value from it. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Matthew, and hi, everyone. The purpose of this webinar is to give you as much information as possible. It's built as a step-by-step guide to launching and maintaining your employee referral programs. As Matthew said, my name is Ziv Elivraz. I'm the founder and CEO of Zao. We're a referral and social hire platform. And we'll be talking about our platform as well, but also focusing really on how you can make the most out of your employee networks. During the webinar, by the way, we've got a Q&A box. You're sort of in the control panel. You'll see a place where you can ask questions. Feel free to type in any question that you want. It'll queue up, so we'll address the questions at the end. But if an idea comes to mind, if a question or feedback comes to mind, just type it in there, and we'll address it at the end. And I'm going to start by sort of saying what we're going to cover. First, we'll start with the impact of referral programs and why everyone loves referral hires. I think that for some it's a given, but for many it's not, and we'll talk about why referrals are so important. And then we'll cover the biggest problems facing referral programs today and why many of them fail. And finally, we'll move into a step-by-step guide. We've got about 25 steps to launching and maintaining and getting ongoing engagement with employees. And we'll cover everything from start to finish, including how to prepare, launch, and maintain your employee referral program. And we'll give you, of course, examples on how to leverage automation with platforms like Zao. So I want to start with why we're even bothering with referrals. Now, I know you may have heard that employee referrals are the #1 source of hire, but they didn't get that title for nothing. And there are a few reasons why referrals are really important. They produce the highest quality of hire with the best performing employees and the ones that stick around the most. And all that typically with the shortest time to hire and the best ROI. And they also produce the highest quality candidates. Referrals produce candidates that are 5 times more likely to be hired than other sources. And as I mentioned, they have the #1 retention rate after 1, 2, and 3 years out of all hires. So for example, after 1 year, the typical retention rate of referrals is 46%, which is a huge difference, for example, from job boards, which only total in at 22%. And these days, with your employees being more connected than ever on social networks like Facebook and LinkedIn, it just doesn't make sense not to make all that you can of this powerful source of hire. Now, I want to move on to the problems facing referral programs and why they often face failure, right? So if referrals are so great, why do companies even go to other sources first? Well, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this picture here. When you ask your employees for referrals, you might typically get ignored. And the standard answer could be, I'll check, I'll get back to you. But then most employees don't follow through. Engaging employees is hard because we're asking them the wrong question. HR typically sends a long list of open requisitions to employees, and somehow employees are supposed to expect it to come up with resumes, even though they're obviously not recruiters, they weren't hired for that purpose, and they have no idea how to get one. So low engagement is a serious problem facing many employee referral programs today, and we've seen numbers in very respectable firms go around down to 4% of employees participating. And during this webinar, we'll talk about how to drive your engagement levels up and to keep them that way. Now, another problem, we can't just blame employees with referrals, is that they're typically the programs are poorly prepared and communicated. And failing to plan is like planning to fail, especially when it comes to employee referrals. So if your program isn't clearly defined and doesn't have clear goals and objectives set out, employees are much less likely to refer. And employees aren't going to make an effort to refer great people if they don't even know that the plan exists or how it works. And finally, a problem which we're going to try and address here is failure to think long term, right? A lot of people think about the big splash that you make when you launch an employee referral program. And that's important, but it's equally as important to think long term. And many companies launch their employee referral programs thinking that they'll continue to see engagement for months and years to come. But unfortunately, this just isn't the case often. So planning for long-term engagement is one of the key things we'll discuss today. So let's jump right in. We've split this up into 3 parts: preparing to start, the launch, and the ongoing activities, and then what it takes to get long-term engagement. So first and foremost is to make sure that your employee referral program is strategic and that's understood within your company, right? And research shows that strategic programs increase referrals from 16% to 48%. So in other words, a strategic program is 3 times more effective than one that isn't. And making a plan strategic means that you make it important and you make it clear. And we spoke about the reason why referrals are so important. You make it clear to everyone, and you have a strategy to make it work. And you think about all the things that you need to address. For example, are your employees in-house or remote? And are you in multiple offices? And you know your team best, and use that to your advantage. What type of rewards motivate, and what kind of benefits might they be interested in? And because this is strategic, we see that when the CEO is involved, that increases referral and engagement rates substantially. And obviously, you need to address mobile and social, which we'll talk about as well. But just to give an example, there's a company called Valve. They're a computer games company, and they give out a handbook to every new employee. And what they write there is we really like this, that they say hiring well is the most important thing in the universe. One of the most valuable things you can do as a new employee is tell us who else you think we should hire. So an employee has their job, but helping the company hire and leveraging the benefit of their network is something that obviously they see invaluable, and we think is as well. The second thing is, okay, so it's important. Now you've got to set goals. What are you out there to achieve with your program? And to get started, write down where your referral program currently stands, what percentage of hires you're getting from referrals, how many employees are engaged in referrals. And once you have all this mapped out, set a time frame for your goals to be reached. And you can update those goals obviously later on. And it's really, we believe in making these goals known company-wide so that everyone knows what you're trying to achieve, and that way they're going to be more likely to help out. And you want to make achievable goals. If your current percentage of engagement is 10%, getting to 50% within a few months may be hard to achieve. So you want to set initial goals that you can reach, and then raise them as you go along. A reasonable goal for your first 6 months to a year would be to increase referral hires from 15 to 30%, if that's where you're at, or from 30 to 40. And another great goal is to increase the number of employees who are currently referring candidates. And we're obviously going to talk about how to do all these things. But a good goal, if you're at 5 or 10%, make it 30 or 40%. And this can be accomplished in 2 to 3 months, and we'll show you how. And if you don't have a plan for getting passive candidates, that too is something that we recommend strongly. So we recommend the concept of a lead, where an employee points out a name of someone that they appreciate, and then you follow up on that as a recruiter, even if that someone is a passive candidate and hasn't yet applied for a job. So on to step 3, right? So what you want to have is a place to receive candidates and to interest them, and that's a branded career site. And the major benefit of a branded career site is that they help you promote job listings and show off your company culture and why people would want to work with you. And career sites were found to be the #1 influencer on referrals. So having a branded career page that shows all your open jobs is a great place to direct referrals, and it makes it easy for your employees to refer great talent. And use the career site as a place to show your employer value proposition. It's a great place to let people know what you're all about, and a great way to screen candidates to make sure that only the right people apply. Now, in addition to including your employee value proposition, let people know what your brand represents. Tell them a bit about your company, why they should come work for you. It may be the first impression you make on a lot of people, so don't be afraid to sell your company, and explain just like you'd like a candidate to pitch themselves. This is your opportunity to pitch your company, and we recommend including videos and images, and obviously the open jobs, anything that you can have about your corporate culture, or why people would want to work for you. You can see an example social career site on Zao that was created by 3M, and like we said, the goal here is to have a place which shows why you're special and why people would want to work with you. So that's step 4. Step 5 is setting up rewards. And rewards are an important motivator in referrals. There are a small number of companies that don't have referral rewards, but a career builder survey found that 48% of employees say that cash rewards would further motivate them to participate in the referral program. And we see this time and again. The rewards do matter. And best practices are, if you're offering cash, to vary the reward. So if you've got high demand positions, you can have a higher reward. If you have positions that are in lower demand, you can offer lower rewards. It's okay to offer non-cash rewards. It's better than nothing, and that can be vacations or an iPad, or things like that. And we will we'll talk about this extensively in the gamification section as well, about how to do that in the best way. But you do want to have rewards in your plan. A lot of people ask us what the right amount should be. We've seen success at around $1,000 to $2,000, or the equivalent of that. But we have companies that have substantially lower rewards that also succeed, and we've seen companies that increase the reward to beyond that. So it really depends on your culture, your company, and your industry. And what we also recommend is, and again, we'll get to that in the gamification section, is to think about how you're going to motivate not just the hire, but also the act of referral or the act of sharing a job. Okay, so once you've established those things, we talked about it before. The reason most employees don't engage is because you're asking the wrong question, right? You're asking them to come up with a resumes, and that doesn't make sense. So instead, consider asking employees more specific questions or giving them specific tasks. For example, ask an employee to forward relevant jobs to 5 or 10 friends a week. You can make it even easier to refer friends by accepting name-only referrals. And the primary goal of name-only referrals is to increase referrals for non-active job seekers. The name-only process removes a few delays that you might have with when you want to engage passive candidates, like waiting for them to update their resume, or sometimes if an employee is with a friend and they think that friend might be relevant for your company, if they have on their mobile device a quick way to refer that friend, then that's a lead that you can follow up on. You don't have to wait for that person to update their resume. They may not have an updated resume available. So if it's a really passive candidate, they may not feel comfortable updating a resume at all. And that's where, again, the name-only process is really important. So think about the questions that you're asking your employees. Of course, they can upload and should be able to upload resumes if they have them, but if they don't, there are many alternatives to that. We'll talk about auto post as well, but that is also something you can ask your employees to share jobs on social networks. We'll get to this a little bit later. Another thing that we believe in very much, and we're pioneering this, is, we recently had a webinar with many HR people on board, and we asked them a simple question, a simple survey question, which is, how many of you have ever hired as a result of a referral from a non-employee? And 93% said that they did. And then we asked a follow-up question, which is, how many of you include some sort of incentive, rewards to those people? And 0% said they did. So this is something that you can choose to do or not. You don't have to, but instead of limiting yourself to referrals only from employees, consider including the network of your employees, your former employees, and ask your employees to reach out to business partners, vendors, friends, and they may know a lot of people. They're typically in your industry. They're also generally highly reliable contacts that won't abuse your trust. And to get employees to do that, you're going to have to change the question you ask them. Typically, we ask employees for referrals and say, do you know anyone for the job? And most people might say, I can't think of anyone right now, or I don't think so. But when you ask them a different question, when you ask them, hey, can you think of 5 people that might know someone for the job? That's a much easier question to answer. So that's something, again, that we recommend highly to include in your employee referral program. Whether you use Zao, which helps automate this whole interaction, or not, that second degree and former employee network is extremely useful. When companies do turn on this feature with Zao, we see referrals growing by 60%. So that's that could have a major impact on your program. Okay, so that's in terms of the plan, right, and preparations, and how to structure a program, what questions to ask, and preparing the career site so that you have an ability to share jobs and receive them both on a mobile and non-mobile device. And so now we move on to part 2, which is the actual launch and the ongoing activities that make a referral program successful. Hold on, I have a question here. Let me see if it's for now. Yeah, we have a question. That's a good question. Thank you for that, Nico. Would it be possible to email the presentation and share the information? The answer is yes. So don't feel like you have to write anything down. We'll be emailing both the slides, and if all goes well with the recording, which so far it seems like it is, we'll also be sending you out a link to the recording. So don't feel like you have to write everything. Just sort of get an idea of the plan. Okay, so launch. The launch matters. So the timing of the launch obviously is important, right? Don't launch on a Friday. There's a temptation to meet everyone at happy hour, but then if they need to act on it, they're going to forget by Monday. So make this an event, make this a specific event if you can. You should certainly send out an email which introduces the program, and hopefully announce in person as well. And don't forget to mention the rewards or any other fun game elements that are related to the program. And again, we'll talk about that in detail. And of course, if you work with Zao, we provide sample marketing materials and a step-by-step launch checklist. And we'll be happy to hop on a webinar like this one for all your employees. So you can invite them and we can walk them through and they can ask questions. But yeah, the launch is obviously important. And you want to pay attention to make sure you convey the messages as quickly as possible and as concisely as possible. And tell employees how the plan works. Tell them the main features and how they'll benefit. And we'll always look at intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. And the intrinsic ones, the extrinsic ones, the rewards are nice, but the intrinsic ones are the ones that are really important. And you should always emphasize that what you're doing with an employee referral program, you're doing it for the company and you're doing it for the employees. Because companies are more successful if they make referral hires. And employees like to work with their friends, and it makes for a better culture and environment. So for all those reasons, for people that stick around and don't leave, and for people that perform better, that's the intrinsic motivation. And of course, talk about the extrinsic rewards, etc., as well. Okay, so you've launched the program. Ongoing marketing is really important. And we always say that an employee referral program isn't just something that you launch; it's something you do. So look for multiple opportunities to get the word out, even after you've launched. Friendly reminders are a good way to let people know that you're still looking for great referrals. And there are a few channels for getting the word out. The first marketing channel is emails, right? So sending emails is a great way to let your employees know when you have new open jobs. And if you have a system like Zao, we send referral updates automatically every week. So you don't have to do that. But if you're not using Zao, if you're just doing this manually, we recommend at least every week or two that you send out a few groups of information. Um, um, one of which is the open jobs, the other is the leaderboard, which we'll talk about, and a few more elements. So that's important. Email is a strong tool. Other marketing channels could be company newsletters or your intranet, which is a great tool for promotion if you have one. And if your company uses Yammer, which is a social network for companies, Zao integrates very well with Yammer. If you use, there are other social networks that you can use too, and they're enterprise social networks, and they're useful too. Now, beyond the virtual worlds, the physical ones are important too, right? So physical graphics and banners. Put one in the lobby, in a public place, in the cafeteria, on the front door. We've even heard of companies that put referral program posters in the bathroom. So whatever works, but certainly you've got people's captive attention there. Next is you want to make participation as easy as possible. And there are, with Zao, it's literally one click and you're signed up. If you don't use Zao, make it easy. Don't force employees to go through hoops or fill out forms or have their friends fill out forms. The more hurdles you put in the way, the less engagement you're going to get. And we've made sign up so simple that with companies that we work with, we see over 85% of the employees sign up within a month and get great participation that way as well. Okay, now this is really important, of course. So once employees are signed up, it's time for them to get social. And you and your employees and their friends are all on social networks nowadays. And a great way to increase referrals is to tap into the employee social network. So, your employees are more connected than ever, and we recommend allowing your employees to choose the social platform on which they want to share jobs and allowing them to share jobs freely. Make sure your job shares include your logo and a link to your career site when shared by employees. Now, the problem with sharing jobs on social networks is that they disappear in the newsfeed very quickly because they're not as cute as, kittens or puppies, right? So we've overcome this problem with a feature called Auto Post or Smart Auto Post, and the idea is that rather than requiring employees to remember to share jobs and then they post these jobs and they quickly die down in the feed, we give them a tool that automatically shares jobs on the social network of choice and at the frequency of choice. And this way employees can set it and forget it. And if anyone applies to a job they share, we take care of all the tracking so that the employee gets full credit for it. And even better, once a friend of an employee applies, we tell the employee about it and we give them an opportunity to write a recommendation even after their friend applied. And that's a great way to get recommendations for passive candidates that your employees may never have thought that were looking for a job. Okay, so that is in terms of sharing jobs on social networks. Now, social networks today have a lot of data, and another thing that they can give you is very specific ability to make very specific and smart matches. Now, you can do this manually or automated, and there was recently an article on ERE about Facebook's Ninja Hunt recruiting tactics, where they get a group of people in a room and ask them to name all the ninjas that, all the excellent programmers that they know. And the problem is that everyone knows so many people these days that reviewing all the online profiles of each and every one of their friends and finding matches might take a while, right? And that's where we have a pretty cool feature that scans all the open jobs in your company, compares them on an individual basis with all the social network contacts of your employees, and suggests for each employee the top 4 jobs for which they have the most relevant contacts. And then from there on, it's literally one click to forward the job on to a friend. So remember what we said, that what you want to be is asking your employees specific questions, and not just who do you get us a resume, but a specific request. Forward the job on to 5 people, right? And our matching algorithm brings to mind people that may not be top of mind, and makes that really easy. Now, if you don't have Smart Match, or if you want to augment that, you can have pizza parties. So this is similar to Facebook's Ninja gatherings, only pizza is a little bit better form of bribery, especially if it looks like the one on this picture here. So it's a great way to bring your employees together and get referrals at the same time. And pizza and junk food tend to be an office favorite, but you know what your employees like best. And make the goal of the meeting a place to get passive referrals. And during this meeting, ask your employees to give you the names of the best people they've ever worked with in the past, coworkers, managers, anyone they can think of. And this is a great way to get name-only referrals. And don't forget that these people, if they're really good and they may not come work for you, they would know additional people, right? So they're also not only potential candidates, but also potential referrers. And of course, in addition to getting passive candidates, ask your employees to bring their computer to the party and have them sit down and forward jobs one by one to friends on LinkedIn or Facebook. Again, we do this in an automated way, but if you want to start right away and you want to do it manually, that's something that we highly recommend. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind while doing all this is privacy, right? So you want to respect employee privacy. And you want to make sure employees know that their privacy is 100% respected. So all their data should be kept private. Never, ever ask your employees for access to their account. Never ask them for their password. All you're doing is asking them to reach out to people that they think are relevant, and social networks are just a convenient way to do that, right? So instead of calling someone, which takes time, when you click forward a job on Facebook or LinkedIn, that takes a second. But the idea is it's really a way of communication, just like email, and you want to respect people's privacy. Always have this outreach done using private messages. Never post on somebody's wall. The message should only be received by the intended party. Okay, so so that was part 2. Remember, we talked about preparation. Part 2 is sort of the launch and the ongoing activities. So what you want to be doing on an ongoing basis, and that is asking employees to share jobs, and asking both publicly as public posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and personally as private messages. And that's really your goal, to get them. Ideally they would do this every week, and everything is great. But engaging people for the long term requires a little bit more. And while we have that, by the way, I see a question come in. How do you handle all the responses from social media if all employees post jobs? So the way that works is, so employees are sharing jobs, right? What will happen is, if their friends see that, and they can either contact the employee directly and send the employee the resume, and then the employee can upload the resume through Zao. Or if you want, we can just redirect them to your ATS. So we redirect them. Hopefully, you're working with Graylink. We redirect them to Graylink. All the resumes come in as just like any other applicant would, but they're identified as a source of Zao. Source is referrals, so that you can give them priority treatment. I hope that answers your question, Adri. If not, just type in a follow-up question, and I'll respond later. Okay, so on to long-term engagement. All right, so probably one of the most important things you can do is give feedback. And few things frustrate employees more than the feeling that nobody's following up on their referrals. I'm sure you've been asked this question by your employees at least a few times, which is, what the heck happened to the guy I referred last week, right? And employees and referrers want to know what happened to the candidate they referred, right? It only makes sense. You don't want to give them the feeling that their referral disappeared into a black hole. So it's important to give them feedback, and giving feedback is one of the most important things you can do to keep people engaged. And if they receive steady feedback, it's positive reinforcement, and they know that that somebody's listening, somebody's out there that cares, and they will continue likely to continue to refer people. If you don't give feedback, there's a good chance that engagement will fall off, and it will cause frustration. Um, and there are three different stages of feedback that are important to the referral process. At least three. We'll talk about it more a little bit in a couple slides. But the first is let referrers know when their candidates are qualified, right? Because you want to let people know that they did something that is worth something to you. And even if they're not, that's okay. You want to give feedback about that too. And then the next is people like to know when their friend is interviewed, and obviously when they're hired. And you don't need to worry about disclosing too much, right? You're just telling people if their referral is qualified or not. You're giving them an update if they're interviewed, and of course, if they're hired, then you update that as well, and that gives encouragement to continue doing that. Now, the beauty of the way that Zao works together with Graylink is that you don't need to do anything; it just happens in the background, right? So if you turn on this feature, then the minute a candidate makes progress in the hiring steps in Graylink, that synchronizes back into Zao. We automatically send an email to the employee letting them know your friend is qualified, your friend is interviewed, and your friend is hired. So you don't have to work hard. Automation gives you that, and that's really a really nice thing. Again, if you're not using an automatic system, we highly, highly encourage that you update on hiring status. Okay, so that's just step one, right? The feedback, which brings us to our next topic, which is gamification. Um, and I see a question coming in. Does your system integrate with Taleo? Yes, it does. So we're Taleo Gold partners, and that works as well. Okay, so gamification, right? Gamification is a great way to recognize, thank, and reward employees for good referrals. Now, some of you may not know what gamification is. So gamification is the use of game mechanics to encourage engagement in employee referral programs. And a lot of programs do a good job of creating a launch, but then they face a very quick post-launch drop in participation. And gamification, we all see how our kids and sometimes ourselves are very engaged in games. And there are a few techniques that we can learn from games and apply that to our employee referral programs to make them to increase engagement. And the first is kind of sounds like an obvious one, but make it fun, right? And from our experience, we found that everyone really appreciates adding fun and games to referrals because people like to see how they're doing. Now, what we do is we offer points and achievements. So remember we talked about those three things that you want to update your employees about whether their candidate is qualified, and interviewed and hired. We add a few steps to that. Because people share jobs through Zao, we give a point to referrers that share jobs in a way that their friends see, and 20 points for a lead and 100 points if a friend applies. And you can customize that, right? So if you want different points because you value each step differently, that's fine. But the idea here is that we give certain recognition just for sharing jobs, right? For action versus inaction. And this gives much quicker feedback than potentially a qualified candidate. But we also substantially appreciate qualified candidates and interviewed candidates more than just people who share jobs. So this is a great way to give additional feedback. This is just a sample structure, as I mentioned, that we use in Zao, and you can customize these any way you want. So try to make it fun and try to give more feedback. Tip number 2, and this goes into fun as well, is to create some friendly competition, and you could create competitions either on an individual basis, and we'll show you the leaderboard soon and how that is reflected, but you can also make team competitions. So you can look at the department with the most points, or the department with the most qualified referrals, or the location if you have multiple locations. And we highly recommend making competitions either monthly or quarterly. so that people can, that there's a deadline, and then they know when they're going to be measured. So, for example, you could offer movie tickets or a day off to the team that refers the most qualified applicants in a given month. Or a dinner for two to the top 5 people on the leaderboard. And that, these things work, these things help, and make sure to put a deadline in it so that you build suspense and competition as the date comes closer. Okay, gamification tip number 3 is allow more winners. So this is really important, right? The problem with typical employee referral programs is that they only reward hires, and they only recognize people that whose share or referral resulted in a hire. And if you look at the actual numbers, since companies typically hire between 10 to 15% of their workforce over a year, even if most of your hires are referral hires, your chances of winning are really low, right? So, because in over the course of a whole year, more than 90% of your employees are going to be left out, unrecognized, and unrewarded if all you're rewarding and all you're acknowledging is successful hires, right? And so it's really important to allow more people to win in referral programs and to make the wins more frequent. Now, this doesn't have to cost you anything, right? Because it's about the points and the recognition and the badges. But when you show you care, and when your CEO shows that they're looking at the leaderboard and they're noticing the employees that are getting the most points, um, then that itself is an important step. And then you can play around with it and make points redeemable for prizes, or make qualified actions redeemable for prizes based on your goals. So you can add an element of physical reward as well. But it could be we've seen companies give out master of referrals hoodies and T-shirts and stickers to put on their computer. Just whatever it takes. It doesn't have to cost much. You just want to increase the pool of people that are recognized as winners, even if even if what they didn't actually lead to a hire, but it was just quality effort that you want to acknowledge. Um, and like I said, these can be stickers or gift cards or anything you choose. It doesn't have to be big. The point is just to show you're watching and that you care. And that brings us to public recognition, right? So if you have, whether you do have prizes or stickers or hoodies or whatever, make sure that these things are displayed publicly, right? And the way to do that is a leaderboard, and this is an example of our leaderboard, which shows the top referrers, where they stand. How this gives people an idea of how they can move up, where they are if you do have competitions, how much you value each of their actions. And it's a great way to acknowledge people for their effort, right? So it's not just enough to have the rewards or the competitions. It's important to recognize the winners, and do it publicly, because that ultimately is what it will drive engagement, right? It's just like any game you play on your mobile device. If you're on the top of the leaderboard and your friends see it, then it's important. If nobody sees it, who cares, right? And another sort of a fun thing to do that we believe in a lot is to bring physical prizes into the lobby, right? So it's a great way to help people visualize your referral program and what it can bring them, and it's an amazing attention grabber. If you're giving an Xbox or a vacation somewhere, put the prize physically in the lobby. Put a date at the end of which somebody gets to take that home. And that serves as a reminder as everybody walks into the office every day. And ultimately, when somebody does take that home, make that public too, and have some fun with it. Okay, so that's gamification. Another tip that we recommend for ongoing engagement is to vary the promotions. Right, if you have the same boring reward every month or every quarter, then that also is something that will ultimately cause disinterest. And this example here from HubSpot, where they had this promotion where they were paying $30,000 to anyone who refers someone. That's obviously just an attention grabber, but it's an example of doing something different. And it doesn't have to be a big prize, right? It can be just something different. It could be one quarter where it's money, and the other it's some other reward. A vacation somewhere. Um, the idea is just to keep it interesting by keeping it variable. And again, once you do this, don't forget to share success, because if people aren't aware of the fact that somebody's actually receiving the prize, it'll cause distrust, or people won't believe that you're actually giving out the prizes. So you want to physically, publicly give this thing, in hand to people. That's why lottery ticket winners get these big checks, physically big checks. Okay, so enough about rewards and prizes for a bit. Measure your program's pulse, right? This is really important. We're talking about long-term engagement, and when you look long-term, you need to be able to measure long-term. And what you see here on the right are screenshots from Zhao's dashboard. If you don't use Zhao, track this somehow to see, how many referrals you're getting, and put it on a chart, right? Because numbers sometimes, 10, 5, 20, 50 may not be clear, but once you put it on a chart, you're able to see trends. So what you want to see is the chart initially going up, obviously, and then ultimately at some point it will plateau, and then you want to monitor it so that it doesn't go down too much. If it does, you know that it's time for a new promotion, and Zhao's dashboard measures this on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, so you have great insight into where things are going, and when it's time to act, if need be. Okay. Another important thing is, and we said it initially, a referral program is not something you launch; it's something you do, and it does have a lot of automated tasks, right? It's that weekly email, it's that weekly reminder or monthly reminder to employees. Um, and these recurring tasks aren't fun for anyone, but that is what shows people that the program is alive, right? When employees see that other employees are, we call it the refer of the week. Every week somebody, the person that gets the most points is highlighted as the master of referrals for that week, right? And obviously it's tedious to do this manually, so we highly recommend automating these tasks and using a platform like ours that helps you automate that. And what you want to communicate on an ongoing basis is jobs in the system, active employees, matches if you have it, right? So because Zhao is able to do these matches between jobs and friends of employees that are a good fit, we send that every week, right? Every week, an employee gets the top 4 jobs for which they have the best friend matches. And from there, sharing the job with those friends is just one click away, right? And of course, AutoPost is another way to automate the actions you want employees to take, right? If you're going to rely on people to remember to share jobs every week or two, that's not going to happen, right? But if you have automatic posting and they just turn it on and set it and forget it, then you're able to get ongoing long-term engagement without the employee really needing to do anything. Okay, so that's about automation. Another important thing you have to consider is making sure that both applicants and employees can easily access your jobs when they're on the go. Mobile recruiting is quickly on the rise. Currently, only 19% of job seekers use mobile devices, mainly due to limitations of job platforms. But research shows that 57% would like to use mobile devices. Obviously, that's only going to grow, right? At Zhao, we are already seeing over 25% of our traffic coming to the social and mobile career sites from mobile devices. So what this means is that if your referral experience and if your applicant experience doesn't include support for mobile devices, you could be missing out on over a quarter of your candidates and referral potential. So make sure your referral program is mobile. All your employees should be able to view jobs and refer friends easily on their mobile device. We obviously allow that. And all applicants should be able to easily view job descriptions and at least begin the application process from a mobile device. If you don't do this, you're just going to see your applicant rates and referral rates go down, and you won't understand why. Another thing that you need to consider for long-term engagement is extending referral rewards to non-employees. We talked about that before. Um, non-employees just don't have the same intrinsic motivators for referring a great person to work at your company. They don't work for you like your employees, but they do like to help. And people like to help friends find jobs, and if their friend works in your company, they want to help your friend as well. But we've seen engagement grow between 10 to 50 times um, when you offer rewards to non-employees. So rewards there is a massive motivating factor uh, with getting engagement of non-employees. And once you do, don't forget, when you extend rewards to non-employees, what you're doing is reinforcing within your employees the question of, don't just forward jobs to people who might be interested in working for us. Think about who they might know. So, for example, if you're looking for, a junior marketing person, right? Great junior marketing or salesperson, and the only person that I know as your employee is a very senior salesperson who would never come and work for our company as a junior salesperson. If the only way that I think is, would this person come work for me, I probably wouldn't forward the job on to them. But if the thinking is they're going to be rewarded and they're going to get something out of referring somebody to us, they probably know a lot of great people. So that alone is something that will increase the long-term engagement of your employees. So that's highly recommended. Another nice tip, as we're sort of nearing the end, is use your email signature. And if you're get your employees on board with that too, right? You're in touch with a lot of people, um, and they know a lot of great people. So use your email signature as a way to let people know that you're hiring, and change it around every month or two, because people will get used to seeing one signature. But if you change it, it pops to mind as something new. And you can see a nice banner example here. Use wide banners, tall banners, colored fonts. Just change it around every month or two, and let your employees do that as well. Offer that. A lot of companies have that boring disclaimer at the bottom of their email that's inserted automatically. That's okay. Do that, but why not use that space to market your referral program and the fact that you're hiring? So that's something that we recommend too. Regarding taxes, obviously, if you pay your employees, you need to take care of that. If you reward non-employees, we take care of the payments for you. So we handle all the tax issues, but that's something that you should just be mindful of if you do decide to engage non-employees, but you don't work with Zao. Don't forget that there's tax issues there. And finally, sort of as a final note in terms of varying promotions and varying rewards, we recommend considering a month or a quarter where, instead of rewarding employees with cash or prizes, the entire company works towards social goals. So let your employees choose the social goal that they want to work towards, or pick one that the company likes to support. It could be donation of toys for tots or a meal for those in needs. And you can decide it doesn't need to be for a hire, obviously. Remember, we like um, giving quick feedback and quick satisfaction, so to speak. So, donate toys for tots or a meal for those in need for every qualified applicant. And that lets you. These things don't cost much, and they can, because they happen a lot relative to hires. It's a great way to actually make real impact, right? In terms of social giving. So those are our tips, for both planning, for launching and maintaining ongoing and ultimately long-term engagement with your employee referral program. We hope you found this useful. Just to summarize, you should always plan for the long term and how, what the ongoing engagement will be, not just the launch. And automation and smart matching makes referral easy. Don't ask people to come up with resumes. That's obvious. Give them actions that are easy to do and that have broad social impact, especially with employees being so well connected. Gamification, we talked about that, and again, we'll share the slides with you. Makes referrals fun and sustains long-term interest. And consider extending rewards to non-employees. It's a double whammy of engagement because it changes the question you ask your employees and engages your second-degree network. And support mobile because both your applicants and referrers are on the go. They're going to do it more and more. If you don't, you will be left out of a major source of online communications. So that's it. I sort of answered questions on the fly as they came in. Feel free to type in any questions now if you have them. I see one more question coming in, which is how easy is it to get up and running with Zao? Theoretically, you could open an account and start today. Realistically, we'll help you open an account and kick off in probably under an hour. And we'd be happy to demo. As Matthew said, if you'd like us to join a call or someone from Graylink could come to your office and demonstrate the product. You could be up and running within a week or two. We'll need to integrate with your ATS, of course. So if you work with Graylink, we'll take care of everything in the background. You mentioned Taleo. We work with that as well. If it's some other system, we'll need to obviously explore. There are some others that we work with, but certainly it's completely seamless with those two systems. Any more questions? We'll give it a few more seconds. Feel free to type them in. And if not, then thank you all for attending. If you want to email us, just email hello@zao.com. Graylink is info@graylink.biz. And thank you all very much for attending today. Thanks and have a great day.